All right, welcome back. We continue right here on Pittsburgh CW. It's 412-575-2600. Bob Pompeani with you till 11 o'clock. Pirates also started the day by announcing that Josh Harrison would likely be done for the rest of the season. He's on a 10-day DL, but he has a broken hand, left hand. He got hit again last night. 23rd time this year that he's been hit by a pitch. That's the most in major leagues this season. He's in there tight, up against the plate, takes pitches, and he gets hit quite a bit. And last night was a costly one for him. Ends his season with all intents and purposes, 16 home runs and a 273 average. Let's go to the lines, beginning with Mike in Bon Air. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Hi, what's up? I have a question, a comment about Josh Harrison.
Okay.
I don't know how good your memory is, but in 1977, Terry Bradshaw played most of the season with a cast on his hand.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't Josh Harrison play with a cast on his hand? I've seen hockey players already play with casts on their hands.
Well, I mean, it's hard to grip a baseball bat. It's hard to grip a baseball bat when you rely on that, especially on that hand. That's his trigger hand on the swing. I mean, what's he going to do? If he has a broken hand, he can't necessarily swing a bat, and they're certainly not going to put him in a position to get in there and make it worse. And there's only 11 or 1 month left of this season, which means what are you going to gain by putting him in there now? He's due to make $10 million next year. You know, there's a part of faction of people out there who believe that the Pirates would like to trade him and not rid themselves of that salary too. They're going to have to deal with McCutchen, who, by the way, is in a little bit of a swoon here of late. His average has come down, the run production has come down, and if this continues, you wonder what that would mean to the Pirates if they have any attempt of signing him or trading him. And the timing of all this comes into play as well. A lot going on there with that. Let's go to Bob in the Slopes. Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Fine, Bob. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Okay. I know Hurdle's been around managing for years, and he knows a lot more than I do. But can you tell me how I can notice that Chris Stewart handles the pitchers better than Elias Diaz does?
Well, Chris Stewart, that's one of the reasons why he's out there more so than Diaz. But that's one of those things that you got to feel comfortable with if you're a pitcher. And this is a veteran guy who's been around for a while, and he knows how to do it. I think Diaz is learning how to do it as he goes. I think Diaz has better upside.
Yeah, but they got one run this weekend with him catching.
No, I understand. I mean, I don't want to see guys who've been here on a long time want to have a chance to evaluate younger guys. I do. If that's what you're suggesting, I agree with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to see veteran guys. And when I saw John Jaso start the other night, I'm to the point where I don't need to see him anymore. I have always said John Jaso, to me, is a good guy to have on a good team's bench, because he can come off the bench and be a good hitter. He could spot start here and there. He could do these things. But when you rely on him every single day, or the majority of days, you're admitting you have a weakness.
I thought the low point was him in Cincinnati running around carrying his hat in his hand.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate the call. Let's go to line 5. Paul on the north side. What's up, Paul?
Hey, Bob. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Good.
Good.
Hey, it could be embarrassing this week for the Pirates as far as attendance goes. I know they're playing the Cubs, but I don't think there's too many people interested in even the Pirates playing the Cubs. There's going to be more Chicago fans in the seats.
Yeah, they travel well, especially here. The last time they were in, there were a lot of Cub fans in the stands.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a little bit embarrassing for them, or probably help them attendance-wise, money-wise, too, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the Pirates have themselves to blame for this at this point. Again, you got to put more into the product, and if you don't, the product suffers, and guess what else will suffer? Attendance will suffer.
Yeah, it's bad this year.
Yeah, so it's going to probably go down again next year, too. Thanks, man. Appreciate the call. Line 3 we go. It's Jerry in Hempfield. What's up, Jerry?
Hey, Bob. Over the past years, the Steelers seem like they would never want to pay cornerbacks. That's the last position that they want to try to pay top dollar. They try to get them, very cheap. And now they did 1 or 2 guys. They gave them $5 million, like for a year, 5 years, and that. But that didn't pan out. But they'd always kept it real low. Now they're going out and getting some good cornerbacks, and they're going to have to pay them maybe $4 or $5 million. And they didn't want to do that, but they seem like they have to do that now. So what do you think? Is that what they should be doing?
First of all, they've for a lot of years never drafted anyone in the first round, and we saw that with Artie Burns last year. We saw a first and a third. We saw a second with Senquez Golson 3 years ago. That didn't turn out, but that's a high pick to make on a cornerback. It's terrible that he never even got on the field in 3 years. They had no choice but to cut him. But, they had Sean Davis in the second round, Cam Sutton the third, Brian Allen fifth. They devoted a lot of time to this. And even then, they were not satisfied with what they saw, which is why they jumped all over Joe Hayden. Say what you want about him. You know, he had injuries last year, which I think really affected his play to the point where he gave up 6 touchdown passes, but I think you can look at the injuries as a major reason why. They believe Hayden will be an upgrade. They have chosen not to wait on guys to develop. They want production right now. They want to win right now. I think everything they've done this week is an indication they want to win right now. They're not waiting around anymore. They brought in Vance McDonald because they didn't want to wait on Jesse James or Xavier Grimble or anyone else to develop there. That's why they brought in Ladarius Green last year. That didn't work, so they bring in another tight end this year. Their message is we want to win now, and we're going out to try to improve on all positions if we can. Having said that, there is, at least when I look at their roster, and you're never going to satisfy every single roster position, but there is an issue with backup inside linebacker. They don't have a lot of depth there, so they better hope that Ryan Shazier, who has had injuries, along with Vince Williams, are there out for the lion's share of the time, because they're backups, as much as you may like them, at least on potential. We haven't seen the production there, and we'll see how it goes after that. Let's go to line 1, Chuck in Munhall. Hey, Chuck, welcome to the program. How you doing?
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Good, thanks for calling.
Listen, I agree with you, and I want to applaud the Steelers because that win now attitude. They realize they only got 1 or 2 years left with Ben.
Or maybe 1, maybe 3, maybe you don't know, and that's why they're doing this. I think that's a big part of why they're doing this.
Absolutely, but I just want to say this: with Joe Hayden in that secondary is going to ball out. Now, the only weak link now that's going to be in that secondary is going to be the starting safety Mitchell. I hate him. I think he's terrible. He takes bad angles. He can't tackle, and I wish we get rid of him.
Well, be careful what you wish for. If you saw their safety play without him in this preseason, you know why they need him. I am on the other side of that argument. Thanks for the call. I think Mike Mitchell is a terrific player. I think he first came here, he had groin problems that led to surgery. He was not the same player. I'm sure people in Cleveland are looking at Hayden and say, well, look, he gave up the most touchdown passes of any quarter in football last year. You know, well, there's a reason for that, too. He was injured, and he had surgery. So I think Mike Mitchell is needed, but they went out today and got J.J. Wilcox in case that injury lingers. And in case they have other depth issues there. Dangerfield was injured. We don't know the extent of that. So they're trying to make sure they have all bases covered at this point as best they can. Tom in Johnstown is next on the sports call. Hello, Tom.
Bob, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good.
Hey, I just want to ask 2 questions. One is, does the Steelers have enough of money to sign Stephon Tuitt? And who are some of the guys that the Steelers signed to the practice squad, and I'll hang up and listen.
All right, thank you. The goal is to sign Stephon Tuitt before next Sunday. Sometimes this goes right down to the very last day. I think they're trying to do that. The question becomes, they brought in a lot of money on McDonald. They brought in more money on Hayden, and they brought in money on Wilcox now. So is there enough money under the cap to make it possible to get a deal done? I think they also wanted to try to get a deal done with Chris Boswell, their kicker. I'm not sure if they can do both. So that'll be something to watch this week. As far as the practice squad, a lot of what you would expect on there. Fitzgerald Toussaint is on that list. Matt Galambos is on that list. Surprisingly not on that list is DeMarcus Ayers, a 7th-round pick last year who was injured all this preseason, played in the final game, and I still think he has a lot of potential, but he was not brought back. And a lot of linemen and other people that Marcus Tucker, for example, a wide receiver, a lot of guys with hopefully potential, and they'll choose to develop that as they go along. We got to take a break. We have Bob, we have Nick, we have John, and more calls on the way right here live on Pittsburgh CW.